Adrian Delano, encased within the soothing cocoon of his vehicle, moved slowly through the pulsing veins of Edison, New Jersey. The sun was sinking into the horizon, leaving trails of vermilion and gold in its wake. Buildings cast long obsidian shadows, their creeping lengths imitating hands reaching for the mysteries of the night. Adrian was a seasoned detective, a craggy bastion of justice weathered by the grit of life. His appearance bore the evidence of a history filled with both victories and losses. A faint scar ran from his forehead to the tip of his left eyebrow, a souvenir from an earthquake that shattered more than just buildings. In the fading daylight, his eyes glinting like chips of onyx reflected the cityscape as he approached Elysian Noir, a nightclub huddled within Edison's glistening arteries. A palpable energy pulsed from the club, a magnetic pull he had learned to associate with places that harbored secrets. Inside, smoke and perfume hung in the air, dancing to the mournful saxophone playing on the stage. He navigated through the crowd, his gaze steady and discerning, cutting through the smoke and mirrors with a practiced ease. "Detective Delano," a voice wafted over the clinking glasses and muffled conversations. The club's manager, a man named Castellanos, with eyes too sharp for comfort and an unsettlingly quick smile, approached Adrian. They sat in the clandestine quiet of the office, the glow from a solitary lamp painting half their faces in its warm light. "Grave robberies, detective?" Castellanos said, his voice honeyed with faux surprise. His eyes glinted in the lamplight, a glacial chill in their depths. Adrian nodded, a stony resolve settling on his face. "All linked to your club, Castellanos." The room swam with tension, the silence stretching into a taut wire as Adrian laid bare the facts, their grotesqueness a stark contrast to the subdued hum of the club outside. Castellanos remained an enigmatic sphinx, his expressions as unreadable as an unsolved riddle. The conversation led him to a list of names, to patrons now buried and their graves violated. As he left, the laughter and music from the club sounded distant, their joy creating an uncanny discord with the chilling task ahead. Underneath a star-pierced sky, he visited the cemetery. The silence of the graveyard was disrupted by the untimely intrusion of his footsteps, reverberating through the tranquility like tremors. The graves lay before him, the final resting place of souls snatched by the shadowy grasp of death. At the foot of the most recently desecrated grave, a symbol carved into the dirt caught his attention. An unholy insignia that made his skin prickle with a cold dread. It was alien, yet terrifyingly familiar, like a nightmare forgotten upon waking, but leaving a residue of fear. As the heavy gate of the cemetery creaked shut behind him, a shiver ran through his spine. Something in the marrow of his bones told him that he was standing on the precipice of an abyss, teetering on the edge of an uncanny revelation. In the comfort of his home, he pored over case files, the cryptic symbol looming ominously in his mind. A tangible fear began to claw its way into him, creeping beneath his skin, disturbing the hard-won equilibrium. It was a fear he hadn't felt since the earthquake, a trembling dread that the ground beneath him was about to collapse once more, dragging him down into its dark, unforgiving depths. Adrian's investigation unfurled like a cloying mist, each layer peeling back to reveal an even deeper obscurity. Dawn found him in his study, surrounded by files and police reports, his eyes bloodshot from a night spent in relentless pursuit of the hidden truth. A map of Edison lay sprawled across his desk, dotted with colored pins marking the houses of the deceased. A blood-red string connected them all to Elysian Noir, forming a disquieting constellation that seemed to mirror the ominous symbol he'd discovered at the cemetery. His first daybreak lead was a waitress from the nightclub, a woman named Alara, who had an uncanny ability to recall faces and conversations. In the privacy of her humble apartment, she became his unwilling guide through the labyrinth of the nightclub's patrons. Through their dialogue, her voice a whisper against the subdued clinks of their coffee mugs, he was introduced to the web of relationships that tied the victims together. "It's like they all shared some sort of secret," Alara confessed, her voice lowered to a conspiratorial hush. Her eyes held a shadow of fear as she remembered the men and women who were now merely names on gravestones. The conversation led Adrian to another lead, a group that called themselves the Starving Shadows. They used to meet up at the club often, a strange lot, always whispering and huddling together. She murmured, her fear palpable. The pieces started to fit together in an increasingly macabre puzzle. Adrian's journey took him to the edges of Edison and the fringes of his sanity, navigating through the shrouded secrets and the stifling fear that something monumental and terrifying was at play. His brave and persistent nature was a beacon in the enveloping darkness, his dedication unyielding even when the narrative seemed to spiral into the realm of the absurd. Through sleepless nights and nerve-wracking days, he soldiered on, piecing together an account that made his skin crawl with dread. Word of his investigation spread through Edison like a chilling breeze. Eyes began to follow him, their gazes weighted with a mix of fear and caution. Each step he took, each question he asked, stirred the pot further, eliciting whispers that scuttled away into the corners of the city as he passed. Hidden in the underbelly of the city, he witnessed a gathering of the Starving Shadows. He couldn't see the ritual properly as he viewed through a cracked door, but it was enough to solidify his worst fears. He left the dank alleyways of the city that night, his heart pounding against his ribs like a wild bird trapped in a cage. An echo of the horrifying ritual played in his mind, a grotesque ballet of cannibalistic practices that made him want to deny the existence of such inhumanity. But the seeds of truth had been sown, germinating within him as he realized the depth of the pit he was standing on the edge of. He knew he would have to descend into the abyss to meet the horror head-on. As the final vestiges of his old worldview crumbled, he prepared to step into the darkness, to dance with shadows in a desperate bid to shine a light on the unfathomable terror beneath Edison's unsuspecting veneer. Edison slept under the indigo canvas of the night, oblivious to the grotesque performance about to unfold. Adrian, his silhouette hardened by the sting of the night's chill, stood outside the Elysian Noir. He was armed with a reckless determination and the cloak of a man willing to play a role in a nightmarish pantomime. His entrance into the club was a dive into an undersea world, drowned in scarlet and amethyst lights, the air vibrating with primal beats of music. Tonight, the patrons were mere blots in his peripheral vision, his gaze focused on the covert gathering of the Starving Shadows. The club's back room, hidden behind a velvet curtain, was a portal to the unimaginable. The room buzzed with an eerie energy, a strange inversion of the vibrant life outside. Figures moved like wraiths, their faces obscured by ornate masks reflecting grotesque distortions of the human form. A ritual unfolded with a sickening languidness, a perverse dance around a figure cloaked in shadows. He watched, hidden behind a pillar, as the figure unveiled itself, revealing a sight that sent a visceral shiver of terror through him. It was a monstrous form, grotesque and revolting, its presence an affront to reality itself. The scene before him threatened to unhinge his sanity. It was a tableau of cosmic horror, a window into an abyss where morality and humanity were devoured whole. The ritual culminated in an act of cannibalism, a macabre feast that left a metallic taste in his mouth. The true nature of the society was laid bare before him, a monstrous spectacle that cast an impenetrable shadow over his soul. But it was in this moment of horror that his resolve hardened, an inner steel kindled by the monstrous sight before him. His silent observation, however, was disturbed by an uncanny sensation of being watched. A pair of inhuman eyes locked onto his, their gaze piercing through his facade. A sudden movement, a sharp gasp, and the room erupted into a cacophony of screams and otherworldly roars. He found himself in a desperate chase, the monstrous forms of the society hot on his heels. His heartbeat thundered in his ears, a frantic drumbeat that echoed the primal fear curling in his gut. He emerged from the club into the indifferent night, his panting breath slicing through the silence. His escape led him through Edison's deserted streets, a macabre chase beneath the indifferent gaze of the moon. As he finally lost his pursuers, he found himself at the edge of the city, panting heavily, his body shaking from the terrifying encounter. He was a man changed, a mere shell echoing with the resonances of the cosmic horror he had witnessed. In the distance, the city of Edison slept, oblivious to the darkness that lurked within. Adrian looked at the skyline, the silent houses, the flickering streetlights. and knew he would never see them the same way again. The earth beneath his feet felt unstable, mirroring the tremors of the past earthquake. Only now it was his perception of reality that had been shattered. He was on a precipice, staring into an abyss that promised to consume him if he dared to delve further. But as the sun began to rise, casting long shadows over the sleeping city, Adrian knew he had no choice but to plunge into the maw, to confront the horrors that lurked beneath. Adrian moved through the following days like a phantom, each moment echoing with the monstrous ritual he had witnessed. His world was tilted, a cruel mirage superimposed on the facade of everyday life. The familiar streets of Edison now seemed laced with a quiet menace, each alley whispering secrets of a world lurking beneath the veneer of reality. But amid this disorientation, he found a strange solace. He had peered into the abyss, and though it had filled him with an inhuman dread, he found himself drawn to it. This was not a surrender to the darkness, but a resolute challenge. He would not allow this monstrous secret to fester beneath his city. His investigation became a dance on the razor's edge of sanity. He visited the graves again, their silence now a chilling echo of the monstrous feast. Each name etched into the tombstones was a whisper of a life consumed by an unimaginable horror. And in each whisper, he found the fuel to continue his grim task. In the confines of his home, amid scattered files and cryptic symbols, he laid out the macabre tapestry of Edison's underbelly. The truth was far stranger and horrifying than he could ever have imagined. A grotesque parody of normalcy that made the earthquake's memories feel like distant, harmless echoes. There was no victory in this revelation. Each piece of the puzzle that clicked into place seemed to drain him, pulling him closer to the monstrous reality he was uncovering. But he pushed forward, his resilience a stubborn flame flickering in the oppressive darkness. The resolution came in an unexpected form. A coded message slipped under his door. It was an invitation back to the Elysian Noir, a summons from the belly of the beast. But it was also a chance, a faint glimmer of hope to expose the inhuman practices consuming his city. In the dim lights of the club, he faced the starving shadows, their monstrous figures crowding the edges of his vision. He watched them, his gaze steady and unwavering, a rock against the current of cosmic horror swirling around him. The confrontation was a silent one, a battle waged in the space between words and lingering glances. His accusation hung in the air, a thundercloud casting a dark shadow over their macabre revelry. In the tension-filled silence, he saw a flicker of fear in their eyes, a crack in their monstrous facade. He left the club as dawn broke over Edison, the first rays of sunlight piercing the night's shroud. He was alone, but the solitude was not daunting. It was a silence he had earned, a quiet acknowledgement of the horrifying truth he had unveiled. His return to the sleeping city was a solemn walk, the familiar streets whispering tales of secret horrors and unveiled conspiracies. As he trudged home, a weary soldier returning from a battle fought in the shadows, he realized his perception of the world had been irrevocably changed. He was a man reborn from the ashes of his former reality, a sole survivor of a cosmic horror that had shaken his city to its core. As he settled into the quiet rhythm of a new day, the echoes of the monstrous secret still reverberated within him. But amid the shaken echoes, he found an unexpected solace. He had looked into the maw of horror and emerged alive. He was changed undoubtedly, yet he found strength in his transformation. For now he carried with him an unveiled truth, a reality harsh and terrifying, but one that he would continue to challenge, persisting against the tide of cosmic horror beneath the surface of everyday life. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like it and subscribe to our channel, where you can find more similar stories, and click on the bell icon to never miss one. There is plenty more cosmic horror to come from the Eldritch Tales Factory. Stay tuned, and until next time.